Very few people understand the work that a buyer's agent does for their buyer and representing them.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Change in the Market. I'm your host today, Kevin Chamala, and with us is Chief Executive Officer and President Joanne Gogan. How are we today, Joanne?
Doing well. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for joining us. And also with us is Chairman and noted industry luminary, Chris Masiello. How are we today?
Hey, good morning.
So thanks for tuning in today. What we want to do is bring this conversation back to the current market conditions in the housing industry and give you a brief overview of what that means for you as a consumer and how to take advantage of the situations, whether you're looking to buy or sell. So Chris, maybe give us a little insight of real estate trends as they state today.
Well, there's a discussion, Kevin, about inventory is becoming more available, which is true. On balance, inventory is up somewhere between 20 to 30%, depending on where what part of the country you're in. So that means there's more variety for buyers, which is great because they've certainly been starved for that. Sales prices, though, are still going up. Again, because our inventory moved from 1 month's supply to 2 months' supply. But a big jump, right? But if you're out looking for housing, at least you have a little more variety. And, there's some conversation about when our price is going to adjust. There was an article about the sales price to list price last month was off 0.3%. It's kind of statistically irrelevant, really. But I think that there's a good discussion to be had about buyer's agents and the value of a buyer's agent in an environment like this to help provide definition.
Yeah, and Joanne, why don't you lean into that a little bit more, right? And really dive into the meat of, although the market obviously is not necessarily volatile, there are some nuances that the consumer has to be aware of, right? Dependent on where they are. And how does a buyer's agent really come into play there with assisting our consumers?
And the market today and the need for a buyer to have representation really is no different than it was 10 years ago. I think people forget the part of representation that a buyer has with the real estate agent. They're doing so much to ensure that the buyer is making the right decision. So, a lot of people think, when I list my home, my real estate agent will come and do a CMA. Am I pricing it right? Very few people understand the work that a buyer's agent does for their buyer and representing them. They will do the same CMA to ensure that the buyer is coming in at the right price given the market conditions. They'll do a lot of due diligence. They'll help them navigate through, the interest rates are a bit higher. They'll make sure that they're connected with the right lender to support their purchase. And in this market, as with every market, they will negotiate in the best interest of their buyer. And that is a significant benefit that a buyer has when they have agency.
Yeah, and Chris, do you have anything to add there to close us out for today's discussion?
Yeah, no, it's well said. I mean, look, this is, I think when you said nuance, right, there are a lot of nuances in this environment, and every single buyer, right, their family has needs. Every single seller, right, has a need. Every property is unique. So the entire transaction is unique, right? And I think, being able to engage with, buyer representation, where, as Joanne said, one of the key things that a buyer broker is going to do is going to help you do a market analysis so that you have the information. Buyer's going to make the decision. The agent's going to give them the information. And I think especially right now, and I think the way you phrased it as nuanced this is probably the most nuanced market that we've ever seen.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a great way to close out this conversation for the Change of the Market episode this week. I think we hit on some key points of the benefits of a buyer and buyer's representation, and the importance of having that representation in a unique, nuanced market. Every real estate transaction is unique, but I think we understand in this situation today, you certainly want that assistance to make sure that you're placed in the best position to succeed and achieve your real estate goals. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Change the Market. Joanne, thank you for joining us. Chris, as always, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, good to be with all of you. Take care.
Please like, subscribe, share with your friends and family, colleagues, and we'll see you next week for a new episode of Change of the Market.